guys today. Les Kollegian is the CEO of Jacob Tyler. He's an award-winning creative director and brand strategist with over 25 years of experience in the advertising and design industry. As founder of Jacob Tyler, a global creative agency headquartered in San Diego, he's built a reputation for blending high-level brand storytelling and data-driven marketing results. Under his guidance, Jacob Tyler has evolved from a small design boutique into a full-service global agency that has been named to the Inc. 5000 list of fastest-growing companies multiple times. Les has led successful branding and marketing initiatives for a diverse array of clients, ranging from startups to Fortune 500 clients, including Sony, TEDx, Hilton Hotels, and the San Diego Chargers. His expertise lies in human-centric branding, ensuring that every digital touch point from web design to social media resonates emotionally with target audiences and meets business KPIs. His work has earned over 500 industry awards, including numerous Addies and Tellies, and he's a frequent keynote speaker on the topics of brand authenticity and the future of creative technology. Les is a firm believer that a brand is not a logo, but a gut feeling a consumer has about a product or service. He focuses on uncovering the soul of a company to contribute lasting marketing differentiation. He's deeply involved in the creative community, often serving as a mentor for emerging designers and consultants for business incubators. Prior to joining Jacob Tyler in 2000, Les honed his craft at several top-tier West Coast agencies, giving him a balanced perspective on both the creative and operational side of the businesses. Les, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate your time.
Quite an intro. You forgot I also speak to dolphins and I'm curing cancer.
Love it.
Yeah.
So I gave kind of the cliff notes there, but why don't you take me back a little bit further? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you study? And what made you get into the advertising, branding, design world?
Yeah, I grew up I was born in Massachusetts, in Cambridge, Mass. Grew up in Framingham and Winchester, and then young age, junior high, moved to Maryland. Ended up going to University of Maryland, and actually, I wanted to be an architect. So the reason I got into design, I was always an artist. I always loved fine art. I didn't really understand graphic design, but I couldn't get into the architectural school. I couldn't get good enough grades to get through physics and calculus, so they kicked me the fuck out of it. Wow. So then I was like, all right, I'm going to just get into design, and so I got a undergrad in just design and fine art, actually. That was a secondary. And then I got a master's in marketing communications from the University of Baltimore. So that's how I just got into the design side of things. But I had ended up moving out to San Diego doing, believe it or not, design for collectible card games, like back in the mid.
Oh, wow. Well, wasn't Upper Deck's based out here? Were you working with Upper Deck? Or?
So we were working with Upper Deck. Yeah, that is. We did a game called the X-Files. We did one called Top of the Order and Red Zone. These are like sports-based collectible card games. We were competing with like Magic the Gathering and those companies. And I ended up that gig kind of ended. The company was bought. And I was really just didn't know what to do. And I met some engineers that were like, we need a website, design. And I'm like, what's that? I was like, I've heard of this, so I don't really know about it. What's going on? And they're like, look, we want you to design and program websites for us. And like, we're going to teach you how to program them. And so they taught me how to program HTML. And I actually really enjoyed programming because I loved the fact of like the immediate gratification of something not working and then working. But long story short, that training really worked out well for me in the late 90s when I had a skill where I could design and code a website.
That's crazy.
People do that. So that got me into being a CD at a pretty big agency in San Diego, and really working with massive clients like AOL, Gateway, Qualcomm. Just get my chops in in those businesses as well as startups, and just managing a team of, at the time, a team of developers and designers. And thus having that skill, I ended up going on my own in 2000.
I love it. Do you feel like you're kind of early days of understanding both the design and coding side of things? How does that put you in kind of POV right now with like the whole vibe coding revolution? Like, do you feel like
Yeah.
having that skill set, does that set you up better, or do you feel like that's now becoming like a commoditized skill?
Well, yeah. So unfortunately, AI is going to wipe all that out. So the real bottom line is that you can't. What I realized is you can't be great at both. You cannot be a world-class designer and a world-class developer. It's just, there's too much going on, and especially on the coding side with the technology, the way it changes and constantly evolves. I mean, I would have to learn 8,000 different ways to code, and it just wasn't what I loved doing. So I left that side of it to just focus on the creative side, which is what I truly loved. So I have, I have enough knowledge to talk to developers, and I have enough knowledge to know when I'm getting snowed. But I, for what we're doing now in our agency, and using Cursor and and platforms that are developing things that used to take us 2 months in a day.
Wow.
And so I do feel that, the thing about, I feel like everything is creative. Coding is creative. You can have a creative solution to any problem. But right now, I think that in the AI world, we're seeing, it's giving us the ability to code something in a week versus, months and months and months of time.
Yeah, that's crazy. So is that the biggest implementation that you guys are using on the AI side, is just the speed in which you can launch products now and the cost? It feels like, you hear about people that are, going home and getting on Claude, Cowork or Claude Design, and waking up the next morning and having like proprietary apps and SaaS platforms built for themselves, not just as companies, but as employees. Be curious, like what is the biggest way that AI is impacting your guys' work?
Well, I mean, so first of all, it's a tough situation in the sense that, like, I'm a believer in, great user experience and great design. And frankly, AI is not there yet. It still needs a lot of human interaction and a lot of touch from that side. I think obviously there are businesses I feel that will be out of business very soon, or like lead gen. I can program an agent to get me a lead anytime, and what we're doing, I can just tell you, is we're actually pivoting to go more of an agency in a box, where we are training agents online and then offline to do various tasks, whether it's organic SEO, lead gen, programming, and even design. It's not easy, I wish it was easier to do this, but to get to a point where we can essentially, do a lot more work, a lot more effectively for less money, but still provide great value, is where we're focused. I'd say, like, but our design, we're still doing all of that. I have, designers doing all of that, and frankly, when we're doing brands or brand messaging and positioning, our writer, his name is Jeff Horn. I mean, he's 1,000 times better than AI. So, and trust me, I've tried it. I've said, oh, how can I, mitigate some of these costs? And it's just not worth it. I'm not seeing you can use AI, and I do, for inspiration, or, hey, what do you think of this idea? Or how can I expand on that? But ultimately, it still needs a lot more human touch.
Yeah, it's a great, whether they call it a creative co-pilot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I love this. I'd love to explore this idea of an agency in a box a little bit more with you. So is that the idea of kind of productizing the agency toolkit? You can kind of sell an agency in a box to any client, and then they have their own proprietary in-house AI driven agency that they can use for kind of all the different things that they need as a business as they start out, grow, scale. Is that kind of the idea?
Well, yeah, I mean, we technically could. I mean, we technically could, like, so it's, we're developing this. We bought a Mac studio, and I've got, developers working on this platform and going through the training, and we're communicating with the agents through Slack and trying to understand, and setting a hierarchy of the agents. My caveat was all the agents had to be named after Seinfeld characters. So, so for example, like our Newman is in charge of leads and email, and so we're training him to do those things, and then the protocols around how each agent interacts with each other, because Kramer is ironically the manager. So, so he has to delegate a job to Newman, and then Newman has to execute on that job. Then it gets passed up the chain and then passed to a human for approval. But that's just one example of, the type of thing that we're doing, that I feel, as an agency, we need to pivot. I mean, there's no, I think, I was probably in like early 25. I was like, yeah, we're going to be out of business in like 10 years. And then in like late 25, I was like, we're going to be out of business in 5 years. And then in early 26, like, we're going to be out of business in 2 years, like because it just keeps growing so fast. And in fact, like, our developer even can't keep up with the changes and it's creating setbacks for us through like OpenClaw or other systems, like as they're announcing new, versions, etc.
So the code is moving so fast now that humans can't even keep up,
Well, yeah, we're doing our best.
Yeah.
We're doing our best. But like, wow, we're working on so now it's really, so look, there's always a business behind the design. Like I used to, I listen, I love winning awards. It's great. But if I'm doing 4-point typeface for a senior citizen brochure, that doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? It'll win an award for a cleanly design, but they can't read it, right? Like I got glasses myself, I'm 56, so like you have to figure out what's the right user experience for anything you do, whether it's print or digital. And we pride ourselves on creating that experience, whatever that is. But now we're trying to work on, I'd say, more platform-based stuff, where we can really create and solve problems for individuals based in our knowledge of specific fields. Like we're doing a lot in the construction world right now. We just have a ton of experience in that space. And so we're seeing, okay, here's where the subcontractors are having problems winning bids. Here's where the GCs are having problems communicating with the subcontractors. So what are those solutions we can create online that would enable them to help solve a task very quickly and save them time and money? And yeah, they will pay us for that benefit.
That's interesting. So you're not just doing design work, you're actually like helping them build systems, processes, software, communication tools, things that help make their jobs easier.
Yeah, all through the lens of design, just better creative, better user experience, and better functionality, It's like, I mean, it could be as easy as, we couldn't find a tool to track time that we liked, like it's the biggest agency issue since the dawn of time, charging a client for your time, and not keeping track of what you're doing. And it's just the biggest age. So we just created our own, wow. And that's the kind of stuff that, and it's not, and by the way, it's super simple. It's nothing crazy. It's just like everything was either too robust or, it's like most SaaS platforms, you get 8 million different types of things you don't need.
Yeah, and you get feature over.
You don't need. And so it's like, look, I just need this simple feature, start, stop, tell me what the client name was, tell me what I did, period. End of story. It's just easier for me now using AI and Cursor and, or, even when we were using Replit, like whatever it is, it's just to get something built. We can do it in a 10th of the time that we used to, a 20th of the time.
So I wanted to drill down on the lead gen side because, I think that's something that, when AI first started popping up and, you had these virtual AI SDRs inside of all of the sales, CRMs, platforms, lead information. I kind of dived all in and turned them all on and had, 1,500 emails a day going out from like 9 different email accounts. And then when I actually looked at the conversations, it was actually very, AI sloppish. So I kind of went the opposite direction, turned all that stuff off, just started going one-to-one, and then also like getting really heavy on the conference circuit. So I go to a conference almost every week because people's inboxes are so loaded with AI slop. Their LinkedIn is loaded up with AI slop now. I wonder, have you seen kind of, AI agents being able to gather information to make an email personalized, both from like a human-centric perspective, but also, a business perspective, to where, it gets the key elements right and can get somebody to open an email, reply back, and book a meeting? Because, I know there's a lot of things out there, but I haven't quite found one that I'm willing to trust again.
Yeah, well, let me dive in and tell you that I fucking hate email marketing. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not right now. I'm not trying to write scripts so that I can try to fool anyone using AI or do cold emails. I get 800 stupid cold emails with the same bullshit lines every day. Yeah. And it almost makes me wonder, like, who's writing these scripts? Yeah. Like, it's the same, just following up, just circling back, whatever dumb statement someone's making, worth a call, worth a talk about this. Like we enhanced 20% of the net revenue of this company, worth a conversation. Yeah, bullshit. I don't care. So to start off, no, I'm not doing that. Yeah. And I'm not there yet. And we will have to do email at some point, but it'll be very structured and not salesy like that. Because whether I could do it, I probably could. It's just not what I like. And so I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to do something for the sake of, I'm not going to sacrifice my integrity for the sake of that bullshit. When it goes down to lead gen for us, it's just finding the lead that we
I see. So it's more of like paying attention to the signals that say, okay, this potential company might be a buyer, they're in our ICP. It's more like, it's more identification and research versus the actual outreach.
100%. So for example, we have a bot or agent, we'll call it, trained, say, I can say, okay, find me a plumbing company that's making $3 million a year or more. Tell me what's wrong with their website, do an SEO audit for their website. Let where are their holes, who's the contact, what's the email, and I can get that information.
Wow.
Right. And so, and I could say, find me a construction company that does over $1 billion in revenue. Yeah. With these problems, they're using Procore, they're, whatever it is, that they can do the research for me and come back with the results. And from there, I'll custom and tailor an approach to that specific person. I mean, I have one of the girls here, like I literally have her door knocking with donuts.
Wow.
Like I go old school because
that's great. I love that. I feel like the more old school, the better, because it's so like, this is kind of interesting. So some guy emailed me the other day and he's like, hey, keep an eye on your mailbox. I sent you a package. And that caught my attention enough to like, be like, all right, I'll keep an eye out for it. So a guy sent me a book about agent-powered growth in the mail.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but isn't that cool? Like, and it was in a really neat box that was actually like fun to open up. It had like a scroll that you opened, and he included this little challenge coin here. It's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
so he made it kind of like the influencer unboxing that you see in kind of consumer marketing. Well, this guy is marketing agentic and AI, but he's going so old school that he's actually